Meet someone and instantly feel that electric pull, like the world slows down just for a second, but only you notice it? That's how it started. No grand confessions, no fireworks, just a glance across the room and a quiet understanding. The kind of thing that no one else would even notice. But behind that smile, there was more. So much more. We were just friends. At least, that's what everyone thought. We laughed in groups, texted like normal people, hung out in public like two people with no secrets between them. Nothing about us looked romantic. No lingering stares, no risky touches, no drama. And maybe that's what made it so easy to hide. We played our roles perfectly. Two people who just happened to click a little too well. And no one suspected a thing. But behind the closed doors? It was different. It was like the world faded away and we could breathe for the first time. When it was just the two of us, everything we held back in front of others came spilling out. The conversations got deeper, the silence felt safer, and even the air between us changed. Every look said what words couldn't. Every moment was charged, like something big was always about to happen, but never did. Not fully. Not yet. And here's the part that messes with your head, we never actually defined what we were. We never said the W words. No, I like you. No, let's talk about this. We didn't need to. There was something so dangerously comforting about keeping it unspoken. Like if we said it out loud, it would ruin everything. So we kept pretending. In public, we joked about dating other people. In private, we stayed up talking till 3 a.m., saying everything but the one thing that mattered. Everyone thought we were just really close. You two are like siblings, they'd say. Or worse, why don't you just date already? And we'd laugh it off like it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. But when our hands brushed under the table, or when our eyes met in a crowded room for just a second too long, we knew. We knew. There was something there. Something we weren't ready to face. But here's where it gets complicated, feelings don't stay quiet forever. At some point, someone breaks. Someone says too much. Or not enough. Someone pulls away. Someone else leans in. And suddenly, the thing we thought we were controlling starts to spiral. That's when it gets messy. Because the line between friends and more than friends isn't a line at all, it's a tightrope. And we were balancing on it, blindfolded. This isn't a love story that starts with a kiss in the rain or a grand romantic gesture. It's a story about what happens when you fall for someone in silence. When your safest space is also the scariest one. It's about hidden glances, quiet heartbreaks, and the tension that builds when the truth sits right under your skin but you're too afraid to say it out loud. And just when I thought I could keep living in this in-between, just friends in the daylight, everything more when the world wasn't watching, something happened. Something that changed everything. One moment. One choice. And suddenly, hiding wasn't an option anymore. So, what do you do when pretending becomes impossible? When your heart speaks louder than your words ever could? Stick around. Because this story's just getting started. It started way back, before things got complicated, before the feelings got too loud to ignore. We met at a mutual friend's party, one of those loud, chaotic nights where you don't expect anything real to happen. But there they were, standing off to the side, sipping something half-forgotten and scanning the room like they didn't belong there either. It was just a casual conversation at first, one of those "hey, you look bored too" kind of talks. But it clicked. Instantly. That rare kind of connection where the words flow and nothing feels forced. From that night on, we kept finding each other. Study groups, casual hangouts, random late-night calls that started as just a quick question and turned into hours of talking about life, regrets, dreams, and everything in between. They weren't just easy to talk to, they got me in a way no one else did. It was never loud or dramatic. Just this steady, quiet pull. A growing closeness that felt both comforting and dangerous. The crazy part? We never crossed the line. Not really. We were close, sometimes too close, but it always stopped just short of something more. There were moments, though, that stuck. Like when we were sitting in the back of an Uber, shoulders touching, and neither of us moved. Or when they brushed a strand of hair out of my face without thinking. Or that time we danced at someone's birthday, way too slow for the music playing, but no one said a thing because we were still just friends. But there were signs. Little things. The way they'd text home yet, every night like it was their job to make sure I was safe. The way they remembered the smallest things I'd mentioned once in passing. How their eyes would linger a second too long when I laughed. How my heart would do that annoying skip every time they said my name in a certain tone. People started asking questions. Friends joked. Strangers assumed. But we'd just laugh, say, "Nah, it's not like that," and change the subject. It was easier that way. Safer. Because admitting it, even to ourselves, meant risking everything. What if we weren't on the same page? What if one of us wanted more, and the other didn't? Or worse, what if we both did, and it still didn't work out? So we stayed in that weird in-between. No labels. No rules. Just this secret rhythm between us that only we could hear. And for a while, it was enough. Almost. Until it started to shift. They started dating someone. Just casually. Nothing serious, at least that's what they said. But suddenly, I wasn't the first person they called when something big happened. I wasn't the one they sent random memes to at 2 a.m. The late-night talks became shorter. Their texts lost that warmth. And I felt it, slowly, like sand slipping through fingers. We were still friends, but the silence between us had changed. There was a wall now, invisible but solid. And yet, when we were alone, everything came rushing back. The way they looked at me hadn't changed. The way I felt around them hadn't changed. But we were both pretending harder now. Hiding behind smiles and small talk. Waiting for the other to blink first. I kept telling myself it was fine. That I was overthinking. That we'd go back to normal eventually. But the truth? Deep down, I knew something was building. Something neither of us were ready to face. The kind of truth that doesn't stay buried for long. Because no matter how much you try to act like it's nothing, feelings don't lie. And something was about to give. The shift didn't happen all at once. It was slow, like something cracking quietly in the background while everything on the surface stayed the same. But I felt it in the way they smiled a little less when they saw me. In how they stopped waiting for me to catch up after class. In the way our conversations became polite, careful, like we were scared of saying too much. That silence we used to share so comfortably started to feel heavy. Like we were both trying not to say something we couldn't take back. And the person they were dating? It wasn't serious, but it was enough to change everything. I'd see them together, laughing in that easy way we used to. And I'd smile like it didn't hurt. Like it didn't twist something inside me every time I saw their hand brush against someone else's. I started asking myself if maybe I imagined the whole thing. The looks, the late-night calls, the quiet moments where the air between us felt like it could catch fire. Maybe I wanted it so badly that I made it up. But then there were those moments, those slip-ups, that made everything more confusing. Like when we'd be alone again and their guard would drop. Like when they called me late one night after an argument with their partner, and their voice cracked just a little when they said, "I miss talking to you." Or that one afternoon when they reached for my hand without thinking, then pulled back too fast, like touching me was still too familiar. I couldn't talk to anyone about it. To everyone else, I was just the close friend trying to be supportive. No one saw the inside of it. No one knew about the almosts, the what-ifs, the stolen glances that lasted a second too long. And part of me felt stupid for holding on to something so uncertain. But another part of me couldn't let go. Because deep down, I still believed that there was something real between us. Something unfinished. And then there was someone new, someone who started noticing me. They weren't part of our circle. They didn't know our history. They just saw me for who I was, and for a moment, it felt simple. Easy. But every time I laughed at their jokes or let them walk me home, I caught a look from across the room. That same look. Quiet, unreadable, but burning with something I couldn't name. And that's when I realized, it wasn't just my silence holding us back. It was theirs too. And the question that haunted me wasn't whether we could be more. It was, what were we even doing anymore? It all came to a head on a night that felt like any other, just a small get-together, a few familiar faces, music low in the background, and that strange tension in the air that only I seemed to feel. I wasn't even planning to go at first, but something told me I needed to be there. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was hope. Or maybe I was just tired of pretending I was okay. They showed up late, as usual. With their partner. But the second our eyes met across the room, it felt like everything else faded out. They looked at me the way they used to, was soft, searching, like they were trying to say something without actually saying it. And I knew then that this night wasn't going to end like the others. Something was going to break. I just didn't know who it would break first. The new person I'd been seeing was there too. Standing beside me. Laughing. Touching my arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. And maybe it was. But the second I caught that flash of jealousy in their eyes, the person who once used to be my everything behind closed doors, I knew we were past the point of no return. There was a moment where we found ourselves alone. Just the two of us, tucked away from the noise, in a hallway that felt too quiet. They looked at me like they were about to say everything they'd been holding in. I felt it coming. The truth. The confession. The unraveling of everything we'd built up and buried for months. My heart was pounding. I could feel the weight of every almost and maybe hanging in the air between us. Then they stepped closer. Close enough that I could feel their breath. Their voice low, unsteady. And right when I thought they'd finally say it, we heard footsteps. Someone else was coming. And just like that, the moment shattered. But that look in their eyes? It said everything. The footsteps grew louder, but instead of just passing by, they stopped right outside the hallway. My pulse quickened, and I could feel the walls closing in. For a split second, I thought maybe the moment was over. Maybe we'd just pretend it never happened, continue with our roles, just friends, like always. But then, just before I could take a breath, the door to the hallway swung open. It was them, their partner. Standing there, eyes wide with suspicion. For a second, everything went silent. My mind raced, trying to process what was happening. The partner's gaze flicked from me to them, and I saw it. That flicker of realization. That crack in their calm exterior. The kind of look that you can't fake. A breath caught in their throat, and suddenly the room felt small, suffocating. "Is everything okay?" their partner asked, voice sharp and low, the kind of tone you use when you already know the answer but need to hear it anyway. I froze. They froze. And for a brief, terrifying moment, I thought everything was going to collapse right then and there. I couldn't look at them. Not after what had almost happened. The secret that had been buried under layers of friendly smiles and casual conversations was on the verge of spilling out. And I wasn't sure if I could handle it. Then, in the silence, something shifted. Their partner's eyes didn't just narrow, they seemed to understand something more than I did. A slight, knowing tilt of their head. Almost like they were waiting for the truth to come crashing out. Before I could speak, the tension broke when the person I'd been seeing stepped forward, pulling me into a conversation about something else entirely. But the damage had already been done. I could see the seed of doubt planted in their partner's mind, growing by the second. And now, it wasn't just about what we were hiding. It was about who knew. The moment lingered, heavy and suffocating. Their partner's eyes were still fixed on me, full of something between suspicion and knowing. My heart raced, but before I could think of a way to fix this, they broke the silence. "I know what's going on," they said quietly, their gaze moving between us, the tension between us thickening. The air felt thick, like a storm was about to break. I couldn't breathe. "What do you mean?" I stammered, my voice coming out too weak, too unsure. "Don't play dumb," they snapped, their frustration seeping through their calm exterior. "I've seen the way you two look at each other. The late-night texts. The distance you put between us, just to hide it. It's obvious." My mind was spinning, the truth crashing down on me. It was out in the open now. All the secrets we'd been trying so hard to keep buried had spilled into the light, and there was no undoing it. I glanced at them, their face unreadable, but I saw it. The guilt. The realization that they couldn't hide behind half-formed excuses anymore. But just when I thought everything was falling apart, they stepped closer, their partner's voice breaking through the air. "I'm not mad," they said softly, surprising both of us. "I'm just hurt. You lied to me. And now you're lying to yourselves." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I didn't know how to fix this. Then, as if fate had a final punch to throw, their partner turned, eyes flashing. "And by the way, I already knew. I'm not the only one who's been pretending." They reached into their pocket, pulling out a phone, and showed us a message from them, the person I thought I was losing to. "I thought you'd like to know." I stared at the message, the words barely registering in my mind. The phone slipped from their hand and fell to the floor with a soft thud, the screen still flashing with a text that had torn apart everything I thought I understood. My heart sank. All this time, all the confusion, the unspoken words, it had all been building up to this. The truth was already out there. And not just to me, but to everyone. They'd known. They had known, and yet they stayed. They were waiting for us to say it, to admit what we'd been hiding. The walls we built around ourselves had crumbled, and in the silence that followed, everything felt too raw, too exposed. And then, it hit me. The silence wasn't just the result of fear, it was the result of comfort. We'd gotten used to living in the shadows, to pretending, to letting the safe routine of our friendship be the excuse. The truth had always been there, but it took a moment like this for us to finally see it for what it was, a choice. A choice to keep living in the gray, instead of stepping into the messy, complicated world of what could have been. The room felt too small, the air too thick. I knew, then, that there was no easy fix. There was no way to put the pieces back together. But maybe that was okay. Maybe what we needed wasn't to fix everything but to acknowledge it, to face it, and to move on, however that looked. As I left, stepping into the cold night air, I realized that sometimes, the hardest truths are the ones we never had the courage to speak. And that maybe, in the end, it wasn't about being just friends or anything more. It was about finally being honest with ourselves.